Hello everyone, myself Dr. Jyoti Gangude, Assistant Professor of Zoology, KTHM College, Nasi. Students, today we are going to continue the topic embolism. Okay, so let us discuss with the systemic thromboembolism. Okay, so in previous lecture we already discussed regarding the consequences of pulmonary embolism and again the thromboembolism, venous arterial embolism. Okay, now today we are going to discuss regarding the systemic embolism. Now here, such a type, that is systemic embolism, is a type of arterial embolism that originates commonly from thrombi in the deceased heart. Okay, so especially in the left ventricle. Okay, such a systemic emboli. Okay, such a emboli they can form from the deceased heart, the heart which can already suffer from the disease, particularly if the left ventricle, okay, have a problem. That time such a emboli which is formed. So these diseases of heart, or here what we can see, such a type of arterial embolism which is originate commonly from the thrombi of the deceased heart, particularly from the left ventricle. Okay, so this deceased heart which include, okay, if the heart which get diseased by means of the reason, okay, the reasons such as myocardial infarction, then cardiomyopathy, congenital heart diseases, then infective endocarditis and prosthetic cardiac wall. Okay, so if such a heart which get diseased by means of these reasons, okay, that time we show such a arterial embolism or systemic embolism, especially from the left side of the ventricle. Okay, now these arterial emboli which invariably cause the infraction at the site of lodgement, which include in the descending order of the frequency or to the lower extremity, such as the regions of brain, or again internal visceral organs such as spleen, kidney as well as intestine. Okay, now therefore, okay, the effect and site of arterial emboli, okay, they are in striking contrast to venous emboli, okay, which are often locked in the lungs. Venous emboli which is restricted to the venous lung region only, but systemic emboli, okay, which can shows its lodgement site, the regions such as the extremity of the brain, again the internal visceral organs such as kidney, such as spleen or intestine. Okay, so there is the difference in the arterial embolism, or it is totally opposite to that of the pulmonary embolism. Okay, now after that we can see the fat embolism. Now the fat embolism, here the obstruction of arterioles and capillaries by fat globules. Okay, such obstruction which can be caused to the arterioles and capillaries by means of fat globules, which constitute the fat embolism. Now, if the obstruction in the circulation which is by fragments of adipose tissue, then it is called as a fat tissue embolism. Okay, now come to its etiology. Here some important causes have for the fat embolism. The causes such as traumatic causes or non-traumatic causes. Okay, trauma, it is what the injured, okay, by means of injury, that is trauma, or non-trauma. Okay, so traumatic causes or non-traumatic causes. Now, okay, first we can focus on the traumatic causes of fat embolism. Now here the traumatic causes which include trauma to bones, injury to bones, okay, and trauma to soft tissue, injury to the soft tissue. Okay, so trauma to the bones here, which is the most common cause of the fat embolism. Here in fractures of long bones, which leading to pass of fatty marrow in circulation. Okay, so here which can cause or during the time of surgical procedures, okay, the surgery related to the bones, okay, so that time also the bones, okay, which can show, okay, or the fragments of bones, they get passed to the circulation. Now this is what about the trauma to bones. Now the trauma to the soft tissue, which includes the laceration of adipose tissue and in puerperium due to injury to pelvic fatty tissues. Now which is what regarding which can cause the trauma or traumatic causes of fat embolism. Now here these are the non-traumatic causes. Okay, the reasons such as fatty liver, okay, fatty liver, if the fat of liver which get accumulated, that is fatty liver. Then pancreatitis, okay, so removal of pancreas, that is pancreatitis. Then sickle cell anemia in the patient of sickle cell anemia. Then decompression sickness, inflammation of bones and soft tissues. After that, extrinsic fat or oil introduced into the body. Okay, extrinsic fats or different oils if they get introduced into the body. Okay, so these are what the non-traumatic causes. But these causes, okay, they can cause or these are the reasons of fat embolism. Okay, now we can discuss its pathogenesis. Now the pathogenesis which include, okay, the mechanisms such as mechanical, then emulsion instability, then intravascular coagulation or toxic injury. Okay, now first in case of mechanical theory which include the metabolism of fluid fat which may occur following the trauma to the bone or soft tissue. Okay, the mobilization of fluid fat, okay, movement of fluid fat which may occur due to the trauma to the bone or soft tissue. Okay, here the fat globules which is released from the injured area and which may enter into the venous circulation, and finally most of the fat which is arrested in the small vessel in the lungs. Okay, now some of the fat globules which may further pass through into the systemic circulation and again where log the other organs. Okay, now this is about the mechanical theory. After that, emulsion instability theory. Okay, or the reason, that is emulsion instability, which include this theory which explains the pathogenesis of fat metabolism in non-traumatic cases, where according to this theory, fat emboli, they are formed from the aggregation of plasma lipids. Emulsion, okay, or instability, which include what? The aggregation of the plasma lipid or such a kind of fat emboli which is formed from the aggregation of plasma lipid. Okay, particularly from the cyclomicrons or by means of fatty acids. Okay, the aggregation of substances, particularly the cyclomicrons or fatty acids, if they get accumulate or aggregated, they are responsible for the causing such a fat embolism. Okay, or such a emulsion instability theory. Now here which is by means of, okay, the aggregation of such a plasma lipid, which is due to the disturbances in natural emulsification of fat. Okay, which is due to the emulsification of fat. Okay, this is what about the emulsion instability theory. After that, the intravascular coagulation theory. So the intravascular coagulation theory, in case of stress, okay, in case of stress, there is release of some factor, okay, which activates the disseminated intravascular coagulation. That is what we say that DIC, or it is what the disseminated intravascular coagulation. So, in case of stress, okay, release of some factors which activate the DIC, that is disseminated intravascular coagulation, and such a coagulation, okay, and the aggregation which are nothing but the fat emboli. Now, after that, the toxic injury. Toxic injury theory. According to this theory, the small blood vessels of lungs are chemically injured by high plasma level of free fatty acid, which resulting into the vascular permeability and consequent the pulmonary edema. So, what it is? According to this theory, small blood vessels of lungs, they are chemically injured by high plasma level of free fatty acid, which resulting in increased vascular permeability and which consequent the pulmonary edema. Okay, this is a such a pulmonary or disease of lung, pulmonary edema. Okay, now this is what about the pathogenesis of fat embolism. After that, we can see the consequences of fat embolism here, which include the pulmonary fat embolism and systemic fat embolism. Okay, the consequences of fat embolism such as the pulmonary fat embolism and from the systemic fat embolism. Okay, so from the pulmonary embolism or from the systemic embolism, okay, pulmonary fat embolism or from the systemic embolism, okay, collectively they form the fat embolism. Okay, now here the pulmonary fat embolism, where in patients, okay, dying after fractures of bones, presence of numerous fat emboli in the capillaries of lung, and is a frequent autopsy finding because the small fat globules, they are not likely to appreciably obstruct the vast pulmonary vascular bed. Okay, so there is a widespread obstruction of pulmonary circulation due to the extensive pulmonary embolism, and which can occur and result in sudden death. Okay, so you have to remember, in case of pulmonary fat embolism, here the widespread obstruction of pulmonary circulation. Okay, there is a obstruction, disturbances in the pulmonary circulation. So, there is a widespread destruction in the pulmonary circulation. So, due to the extensive pulmonary embolism, so which can occur, or due to this, okay, the patient which shows the sudden death. Okay, now this is what about the pulmonary fat embolism. After that, systemic fat embolism, where some of the fat globules may pass through the pulmonary circulation, such as via here the patent foramen ovale. Okay, what it is? Some of the fat globules may pass through the pulmonary circulation, such as via patent foramen ovale, then arteriovenous shunts in the lungs and vertebral venous plexus. Okay, and they get locked in the capillaries of organs like brain, kidney, as well as in the skin. Okay, now this is what regarding the fat embolism or consequences of fat embolism. Now, the next type of embolism is the gas embolism. Okay, here the gas embolism, particularly the air or the nitrogen and other gases, can produce bubbles within the circulation and can cause obstruction to the blood vessel. Okay, and such a blood vessels which get damaged, or they get damaged to the tissue also, and this is what due to the air embolism. Okay, here two main factors, okay, they form such a gas embolism. The factors such as the air embolism and decompression sequence. Okay. Now the air embolism and decompression sequence. Okay. You can see one by one. Air embolism, or it is also a venous. So air embolism. So first we can see it's venous air embolism. After that arterial air embolism. Okay. So air embolism or the venous air embolism. So we have the air which may be sucked into the systemic veins under the circumstances. Okay. So inside the veins, okay, the air which may be sucked into the systemic veins. Okay. The air which is enter into the systemic heart veins, okay, systemic veins or the heart veins, and there are some reasons, okay. The reasons such as here the operations on head and neck region or during the time of trauma, then the obstetrical operations and trauma, then intravenous infusion of blood and fluid, and during the time of angiography. Okay. In that process, okay, some amount of air which get introduced into the systemic veins, okay, and which can cause air embolism, which can cause venous air embolism. Okay, we can see such a reasons one by one, okay, or the such a circumstances one by one. The first one is the operation on head and neck and as well as trauma. So here you can see the accidental opening of a major vein of the neck line, that is at the jugular region, at the neck or the neck wounds, they involving the major neck veins, okay, which may allow the air to drawn into the venous circulation. Now after that the obstetrical operations. Here during the childbirth by normal vaginal delivery, okay, or normal delivery, okay, which ceases the or during the time of cessation section, then abortion and other procedures. The fetal air embolism, which may result from the entrance of air into the opened uterine venous sinuses and endometrial veins. Okay. So during this process, during the normal birth of baby, that is during the normal delivery, or either a procedure of scissor, or either the procedure of abortion, okay, that process, okay, in that process, okay, during the time of operation, okay, some kind of air which get enter into the region, that is uterine venous sinus or the endometrial veins, and which can cause the air embolism or the venous air embolism. After that, the third circumstance is the intravenous infusion of blood and fluid. Now here the air embolism may occur during intravenous blood or fluid infusion, or if only positive pressure is employed. Okay. Now it is what the air embolism which may occur during the intravenous blood or fluid infusion if only the positive pressure is employed. Okay. Now after that, during the process of angiography, okay, so during the angiographic procedures, air may be enter into the large veins, and which can cause again the venous air embolism. Now here this is what regarding the circumstances by which, okay, the venous air embolism which can cause. Now after that, the next its type, that is the arterial embolism, okay, arterial air embolism. Now the entry of air into the pulmonary veins or its tributarides may occur in the conditions, okay, such as the arterial air embolism, which can be caused by the entering of air into the pulmonary veins. Okay, so this is by means of the different again the circumstances such as the cardiothoracic surgery and trauma, then paradoxical air embolism, after that angiography, or the last one, that is coronary or cerebral arterial embolism. Okay, so during that process, during that operational process, okay, some amount of air which get enter into the lung, into the pulmonary region, okay, so particularly the pulmonary veins, and which can cause again the arterial air embolism. Okay, now this is what regarding the air embolism. Or the gas embolism. Okay, the second type of gas embolism is the decompression sickness. Okay, the air embolism, which can show the two types, that is air embolism and decompression sickness. Okay, the first type that I already discussed. The second type is the decompression sickness. Now, decompression sickness, which is the specialized form of gas embolism and which is known by various names such as the Cation disease, then diverse palsy or air embolism. Okay, now its pathogenesis. Such a decompression sickness which is produced when the person or the individual decompress suddenly, either from high atmosphere pressure to the normal level or from normal pressure to low atmospheric pressure. Okay, so here different reasons are there in case of diverse condition. Now, in case of diverse conditions such as workers in diving bells, okay, or again at the offshore drillings or either in the tunnels. Okay, the regions such as in the diving bells at that, okay, after that offshore drilling or in the tunnels, okay, who descend to high atmospheric pressure, okay, increase the amount of atmospheric gases, mainly the nitrogen, oxygen or either carbon dioxide, okay, and they are dissolved in the blood and tissue fluids. So, when such an individual ascends to too rapidly, that comes to normal level suddenly from high atmospheric pressure, okay, to the low. Here, the gases which come out of the solution as a minute bubbles, particularly in fatty tissues, which have affinity for nitrogen. Now, these bubbles may coalesce together to form a large emboli. Okay, that time, okay, such a during the time of such a changes, starting from either from low atmospheric pressure to the high atmospheric pressure or vice versa, that time the pressure which cannot suddenly release but which is released in the form of droplets, okay, or particularly here it is mentioned that the gases which come out of the solution as minute bubbles, particularly in fatty tissues which have affinity for nitrogen, and these bubbles which may coalesce together to form a large emboli. Okay, now this is what in case of diverse condition. Now in aeroembolism or in that condition, which is seen in those who ascend to high altitudes or air flight in unpressurized cabins. Now, the individuals are exposed to sudden decompression from low atmospheric pressure to normal levels. Now, this result in similar effect as in divers and workers in cessation. Means this is similar to that of the condition, that is diverse condition. So, the effect decompression sickness, which is such a embolism which is caused from when the person which is suddenly coming from low temperature to high or either from high temperature to low. Okay. Now its effects, the effects such as effects of such a decompression sickness, the effects such as the depth or altitude reached, then duration of exposure to altered pressure, then rate of ascent or descent, then general conditions of the individual. Okay. Now here the effects, again we have the effects such as acute and chronic also. Okay. Now here the acute reasons such as they occurs due to the acute obstruction of small blood vessels in the vicinity of joints and skeletal muscles. Now here the condition which is clinically characterized by the conditions such as, again here the bends. Okay, the bends are here the patient which doubles up in bed due to acute pain in joints, ligaments and tendons. Okay. Now after that the chokes. Okay, the chokes. Here the chokes, they occur due to the accumulation of bubbles in the lungs, then resulting in acute respiratory distress. And after that cerebral effect. Now the cerebral effects may manifest in the form of vertigo, then coma and sometimes death. Okay, these are the acute reasons of decompression sickness. Then the chronic reasons. Okay, they are from long exposure, that is from the chronic reasons or the chronic effects such as the avascular necrosis of bone, then neurological symptoms. Okay, now the first one is what? Avascular necrosis of bone. Examples such as heads of femur, tibia or humerus. Okay, avascular necrosis of bone, the bone particularly of the head of femur, then tibia and humerus. Then neurological symptoms which includes or which may occur due to the ischemia or ischemic necrosis in the central nervous system. After that, lung involvement. Lung involvement which is in the form of hemorrhage, edema, then emphysema. Okay, this results in the dysphonia, again non-productive cough and chest pain. After that, skin manifestation which include itching, patchy erythema, cyanosis and edema. Okay, so this is from what the long exposure, long effects. Okay, and last one, that is other organs. The other organs which like parenchyma cells of the liver and pancreas which may show the lipid vacuums. Now this is what regarding the decompression sickness, and these are the effects, acute as well as chronic. Now here along with that we have different kind of embolism such as amniotic embolism, amniotic fluid embolism, atheroembolism, tumor embolism and miscellaneous embolism. Now in case of amniotic fluid embolism, okay, this is most serious or unpredictable and unpreventable cause of maternity mortality. Okay, now during the labor and in the immediate post-mortem period, okay, the contents of amniotic fluid which may enter to the uterine vein and reach the right side of heart, which resulting in fatal complications. Okay, the amniotic fluid component which may be found in the uterine veins, pulmonary arteries and vessels of other organs are the epithelial squamous, then vernix caseosa and mucus. Now here such a mechanism by which this amniotic fluid content, if they get enter,